Especially good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you via GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20. Let me say good morning also those of you via our social media platforms, a Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning. Welcome to Friday's edition of To The Point. Let me say good morning to my guests representing the Child Protection Authority. Those are my guests this morning. And we have Miss Louanna, of course, Joseph John. Hope I'm getting the name right. Alternative Care Supervisor. And we also have Mr. Adrian Harford with us this morning. He's the Case Management Supervisor. Let me say good morning to both of you and welcome to The Point.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Good morning,
GT.
Good morning, sir. Child Protection Authority with us this morning. If we were to get the conversation rolling off, the Child Protection Authority. Tell us the role of the Child Protection Authority. For those of you folks, there probably a listener or a particular viewer out there this morning that's always been hearing about the Child Protection Authority. What's the main role of the Child Protection Authority in Grenada?
Well, good morning again to our viewing and listening public in Grenada, Carriacou, PT, Martinique, on the diaspora and beyond. You never know if somebody from the space station may be listening as well.
You never know.
And, the role of the Child Protection Authority is the general care and protection of children in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Yeah. Within that role, we generally want to make sure that no child is abused. Right. So we are against all forms of abuse and will investigate any form of abuse that is reported to us, whether directly or indirectly. All right. In working with the role of the persons at the CPA, we have to remember part of our role is sometimes we have to remove children.
Yes.
Right, and my colleague would get into when we remove children, what happens to the children, where they go, and so forth.
Okay.
In her part of the segment. But our general rule generally is just the care and protection of those children, whether they remain in the home where they are unsupervised or they are removed and supervised elsewhere. All right, we try to work along with the schools, the police, Ministry of Health, Social Development on different aspects of that the role that we have to do. So by me just saying that shows that we can't do it alone. We often
it's a combination of different organizations that are fitting in there.
Very much so. And we have to remember that we as a Grenadian society, a cultural society, we also would have said in the past that it takes a village to grow a child. It takes a community. But what we realize within the Child Protection Authority landscape, it takes different varieties and different aspects of society to come together to basically mold and form that child into a productive member of society. And when one part of our society fails, all of us fail. And we have to remember that our children are our future, and we need at some point to make sure that they are on the right path in doing so. Right. So, as I said, we work along with different stakeholders, the police, for example. Once a report is made and there's a criminal aspect, the police is involved in that point. Right? So, I have to make this clear to our public. The Child Protection Authority does not charge anybody.
That is left up to the police.
That is up to the police.
You are not part of the judiciary or anything of that sort. Not part of that.
We can advise, we can recommend, but the decision is up to the police to charge.
All
right. And so we work along with the police to do joint investigations when we have to do removals, as Mr. Joseph John will speak to. We tend to want the help in terms of not just security when we go in and deal with certain issues, but in terms of spreading the awareness of the CPA and child protection and protection of children generally.
It's like serious business.
It's a very serious business. And so we need all stakeholders on board. Social development, for example, we work along with them in terms of housing assistance, seed programs, counseling for families, and they have special programs like that social development runs like Fly and Hype, and I'm sure they will be great. I appreciate if you bring them on the program so they can speak to those kind of programs as well. We work along with Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. They provide counseling as well, man-to-man programs. They do legal counsel as well, at a percentage of the cost of other lawyers. And because the point about this, we have some vulnerable families that may not be able to afford certain things, and that is a stopgap for them to use. And it's a very competent staff there that can assist in those things. We work along with the Ministry of Health because we have children who need medication, hospital assistance. Sometimes they need medical assistance that they have to fly out, and we need our ministries to work along with us to help those individuals to seek what they need.
Okay.
All right. So I just want to mention one thing before we move along. There are different forms of abuse. There's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there is neglect, and where you would not be spending time with your children alone, home alone, unsupervised. And then you have the emotional, psychological part where you may be telling children certain things that would hurt them inside to help them to move on a path where they might want to commit suicide, rebellious and so forth, because they're seeking attention and other things. And then there's the verbal part where we need to have a context within our vernacular, like we like to say, you're stupid, you know what, nothing, and even though some children are resilient to that, not all are, and by right you should not be putting those kind of forms of pressure on a child to be telling them that, for them to feel that they don't have worth, because all children have worth, and we have to help mold them at some point in time in their life.
All right. You mentioned a particular one that sort of, and you made some mention in your final statement, abuse, because I was focused on the Child Protection Authority, and you mentioned abuse, and it's like you single out that particular one. So I was thinking Child Protection Authority only deals with nature of children that's abuse. Is that the ground
well,
standing there?
Generally, but we look at the well-being of children and their families also, and in doing so, we would promote well-being.
Yes.
Right. Whether it's health, whether it's education, and so forth. So it's not just abuse alone come in, so we deal with that.
Okay.
We have a lot of issues where there are families where they have some issues where the child should be living.
Yes.
Right. And we, I'll have to break it down like that.
Abuse in there.
It may not be abuse in there,
but a different situation has come to light.
Right. So where one parent feel like the child should live with them alone, right? So we may have issues like that may come to the authority,
all right.
And we don't just push it away. We give them some advice. We sometimes have meetings with them and sit and say, look, well, what is the best for the child in this aspect? Should it be the child should be living with you alone?
So that where the counseling aspects comes in there also.
The counseling, the mediation, because sometimes we don't just counsel people, we mediate within families and other entities as well, because at the end of the day we want a functioning society, and one of the pillars of our society has to be the family, and within that family there are children.
All right.
So just for the sake of growing our society, growing Grenada positively, we need that family to function properly.
All right. I want to branch off a wee bit. There was something you want to say?
Yes,
I
think one of the things too that the public needs to know is we don't just intervene where there are actual abuse, but the Child Protection and Adoption Act that was implemented in 2010, which CPA is governed by, gives CPA the authority to intervene even if there is a suspicion of abuse. Okay. So it doesn't literally have to be only abuse, but as long as there are a suspicion, we can also intervene.
And so that's where the reporting aspect of it comes in.
Right.
They could be living in a particular village and they notice something is out of the ordinary with that particular child or children in that particular household, yes. And they could come to the Child Protection Authority, make that report, and the matter is dealt with accordingly. I mean, I guess investigation and so forth has to go through before it takes place. I want to talk to you a wee bit, you folks, about the challenges that the Child Protection Authority faces. What are some of the most critical challenges that you all face?
Well, you spoke about the mandatory reporting. So let's start there first. Section 27 of our Act speaks about mandatory reporting. It basically says all persons who work with, supervise, be around children, they have to report any forms or suspected forms of abuse. So that would include daycares, teachers, principals, medical professionals, social workers, anybody by the remittance of their work or vocational studies, or even, as we just said, our church family.
Yes.
So Sabbath school, Sunday school, whatever it be. Once you are directly impacting the life of a child, you have to report. So there is no I wonder if I should report. You're supposed to report. You have to report. The law says that you do. The thing about it is, there's a part of that law that also speaks that you don't have to say who you are. We don't need your name or where you're from or where you're calling from.
So there's confidentiality.
Yes, you can literally report anonymously.
Right.
We don't need your information. What we need is where we can find that child, what is happening with that child, what you suspect is happening to that child, what the child may have said to you, and you think that, you know what, this is abuse, or there's a suspicion of abuse, and we need to report it. So that is that. That's the mandatory reporting.
Okay.
Now, what we found, and we have some difficulties, we have some persons that don't want to, or don't believe that they should.
Not my business, kind of.
Not my business, or I will handle it on my own, or we will keep it in-house. No, I'm not speaking to anybody particular here. Okay. I'm just using.
I'll be on standard terminology where you're going at.
So, for instance, say there's a school, and the child comes and says, "Teacher, I've been physically abused at home." Or teacher, look at marks, or the teacher observe marks on the child's skin. Ask the child, "What happened to you? Mommy beat me," and she beat you so bad that there are cuts, bruises, black eye, swellings. You can't move a ligament, arm might be broken, and instead of reporting it immediately as they're supposed to, sometimes they call in the parent,
yes,
have discussions with the parent, and decide, you know what, well, you bring the child to the hospital, you keep the child home until the child feel better, and bring back the child.
But is that the appropriate steps that should have been taken?
No. The appropriate steps from schools and everybody else is supposed to contact the police and you contact CPA. But your first option is to contact CPA. If you cannot get CPA, call the police, and police will contact CPA. Because at the end of the day, what happens when abuse takes place, it tends to be a cycle that repeats itself if it's not dealt with properly. And not just in the legal framework of it, but also our children, they are impacted within. So sometimes they tend to lash out after that. Yeah. They tend to feel not wanted. They tend to feel less. They get anxious. They get depressed. And so forth. So it have that kind of aspect. We have aspect where persons, unfortunately, figure that is not nobody else's business. So within the household part of it, we will deal with it among the family, or among the church family. We will pray for them. We will deal with it there. We're not going to report the sexual abuse. We're not going to do nothing of that sort. So we have those kind of challenges. In terms of human resource, that's some of the challenges we face as well. Everybody wants more workers. Everybody wants more vehicles and computers and so forth. But we need a cadre of persons to be able to functionally protect our children in Grenada. Yeah. And but everywhere else, there's always some limitations when it comes to that. Right. So we want to be able to, once a call comes in, to deal with it immediately. But because of human resource limitations, we have a delay. So but we try within, once a report is made, as soon as practically possible, we try to assign those cases for persons to be dealt with.
I'll be due for a break, but I want to ask one question before that break. You being the case management supervisor, what's the process those cases take when a matter is reported? If someone reports a matter, how does that process proceed?
Okay, once a case is reported to the authority, we have an intake officer will intake that information. That information is then put into our system, and it is sent to one of the supervisors for us to assign it to one of our team members.
Yes.
All right. Once it's assigned, that case is therefore the thorough investigation is started there into that case. All right. If an emergency comes in, we have a duty system where we have workers who are detailed each day. Once our emergency comes in, they will be the first responder.
And give that priority.
Right. So then they will do up their report. So once the case is formally assigned, that report, everything is given to that caseworker, so they have something to work with going ahead. All right. And then we keep that case within our system while counseling is done. If that case has to go to court, we provide that court support for those children. If they have to be removed, my learned friend here will speak on that. But we stay in that child's life until all aspects legally and civilly it is resolved as much as possible.
All right. We do for a break. Let's take that break, folks. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Are you...
Here's an assignment for you super sleuths, should you choose to accept. Every single-use plastic thrown into the environment has a fingerprint on it. Who does it belong to? That plastic bottle or food container was imported and distributed to warehouses, supermarkets, shops, food trucks, school canteens, vendor trays, and eventually made its way to us. So how did it get buried in the environment? Whose fingerprint is on this? Since several laws, including international agreements, prohibit polluting, hold on to that plastic bottle or food container until you get to a bin and dispose of it properly. Separate plastic waste for transport to a facility that reuses, repurposes, or recycles. It's the responsible thing to do.
Are you a young man aged 17 to 35 looking to build a successful career? Glen presents an exceptional opportunity with its Rural Youth Training and Entrepreneur Program, RITEC, specializing in small engine repairs. This program equips you with valuable skills in a high-demand industry. Don't miss out. Reach out to Glen today at 444-8430 or visit us at Lower Defridin Street. Kickstart your career and create a brighter tomorrow with Glen RITEC. Enroll now and pave your way to success. Classes begin at the end of June. Should you need any additional information, feel free to contact us on 444-8430 or email grenco86@gmail.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for Grenada to laugh again. Heritage Theatre presents Spice Laugh Comedy Bash 2024, Saturday, June 22nd and Sunday, 23rd June at the Trade Center in Grandance, and on Sunday, 30th June at the Deluxe Cinema in Grenville. Showtime, 7 p.m. every time, featuring some of Grenada's best ambassadors of comedy. Robert White.
I will line up behind the yellow for 9 elections straight. I changed all in time to lose the last election. Why? Because I'm always on the losing side.
Dillion Walters.
It's the McQueen I couldn't take. I don't tell them all they didn't know.
Kareem Alexis and other outstanding comedic performances, all coming to knock you off your seats with laughter. Get your tickets now. Bring out the entire family. Tickets are $60. It's time for Spice Laugh Comedy Bash 2024.
The place go flood with laughter.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here on Classic Radio at GBN TV. With us this morning, we have, of course, members of the Child Protection Authority with us this morning. And welcome back once again to my guests. And we're going to speak a wee bit, of course, to Ms. Joseph John, and say good morning to her once again. And she's the Alternative Care Supervisor. Give us a brief description when we say Alternative Care Supervisor. Give us a brief description of your role.
Well, as the name explains itself, alternative care, home, that is apart from your home, right? Another home from your home. So we have instances where children would have to be removed from their home for whatever circumstances, right? After investigation is completed. When they are removed, we have different sections that they can be placed in.
Okay.
It's divided into two sections, fostering or residential. Fostering, we have kinship fostering, we have just regular fostering. The regular fostering is where the child is placed with someone that is of no relations to them.
Okay.
Right? That's fostering. Kinship, on the other hand, is where the child is placed with a relative.
Okay.
Residential,
Auntie, uncle,
right, cousin, right. Residential, the home, quote unquote, as we would usually say in Grenada, and we have a number of them. We have the Queen Elizabeth, we have Bel Air, Smiles, Father Malagan, Dorothy Hopkins, right? So basically, in a nutshell, that's what the alternative care department is about. Well, the alternative care name, I should say, it caters for placements away from home, and also it caters for permanent placement. And the fostering aspect of it is most of the time temporary.
Okay.
But we also cater for adoption as well, where we have permanent placement.
All right. My question that would lead up to folks getting to be adopted and so forth, our children getting to be adopted. How does that process start for before someone get to the process of being adopted?
Whenever a child is being placed in care, the very first thing we would do is try our best to see how they can be reunited with families.
Yeah.
There are circumstances or cases where the child will not return to the family. It depends on the nature of the case, right? But our first aim is to see how best that child can be reunited with the parents.
Yeah.
If that is impossible, then we would reach out to family members to see whether or not they are in a position to assist with care for the child. If that doesn't work, then we place them into the foster care or the residential care system. We do not, according to the Act, we do not condone, or we do not, let me not say allow, but it is not in the child's best interest to allow them to remain in care for a very lengthy period, right? So we try our best to see whether or not family members also could help, and if not, they place into the foster care system, and then they would be placed for adoption if there are no other alternative.
All right. Before you move on, you mentioned something that I just want a bit of a clarification. You mentioned that you want to, if they're not supposed to be in care for that long. So we're talking about they put into a children's home or into a foster care. And you're saying, like, is it that time factor between there for being in that particular care?
Ideally, it's supposed to be a year.
A year.
However, again, based on circumstances and limitations, we have children in care for a longer period.
Another question that will come to mind: an individual's parents are having issues with their son or daughter for whatever reason. As Adrian mentioned in the intro, we talk about the abuse part of it. Counseling has gone through with the members of the family know that child who has been abused now been put into foster. So after the counseling and some reassurance has been given that, hey, I'm going to do my best to not have that issue reoccur again. Is that when that child could be put back with the family, or there's...
Right. So we work with the family, right? We set stipulations. Let's say, for instance, one of the reason a child was removed was because mother is unemployed, they do not have a steady place to live, lack of support, maybe she's living a promiscuous lifestyle, you know.
Okay.
So we will look at what the key factors are, and we will try our best to see how we could work with the parents. We will give them a 6 months window to see whether or not they would make any attempt to have any form of rehabilitation, or whether or not they would try to improve on their circumstance. We have cases where some of the parents, they're just not interested. They prefer to have the children in care and know that they can have access to them at any time, which is unfair to the child.
Okay.
So we give them a 6 months window, and if within that period, they work with us and all the stipulations are met, then we can reintegrate.
All right. Let's talk a wee bit about adoption in this segment now. A child has gone through the process, maybe been abusive, parents neglect that child, and for some reason now they cannot remain living with the parent, so they have to be adopted. What's the process that goes through for them? What's the process of adoption?
The adoption process is one that is a bit lengthy, right? It takes
Give us a short version.
I will. Trust me, I will. It takes between 6 months a year to be completed.
Yeah.
We have two different forms of adoption. We have the local adoption, and then we have the international adoption. Local, which speaks of Grenada and within the Caribbean. International, the bigger world, America. Locally, if you want a child to adopt, the process is simple. We have a number of documents that you need to produce. Just a few: original birth certificate, original marriage certificate if you are married. If the child is of school age, you will need child birth report card. You would need also the child's birth certificates, police record, financial statements. It's a number of documents. We have a checklist that we usually provide. When all the documents are gathered, we would now do our groundwork, because we have to determine whether or not that prospective adopter is suited for that child. So we do our groundwork. We go to the different entities, whether it be the clinic, school, the village, to get the information to produce a concrete report. After we produce the report, it will now go before the Child Protection Adoption Committee and also the Child Protection Board. The two bodies would view it, and if they are in agreement with the information and they see that the applicant is suited for the child, they will give their go-ahead. We have something called the notice of approval. That's a legal piece of documentation that the applicant will now take to their lawyer.
Yes.
The lawyer would file for a court date, and the judge will give the final seal as to whether or not that applicant would be the parent of the child.
In Grenada, is there a cost for adoption?
There is cost attached to different aspects of the adoption. So we do not have a flat price to say, $500 to adopt a child. No, but in terms of the different aspect, there are fees. For example, the legal aspect, there's a fee attached there. The medical aspect, there's a fee. We have an application fee as well. So there isn't a price to say, we are selling,
But who bears that cost? Is it the adopter?
The adopter.
Who's that cost?
The adopter.
All right. Who can adopt? Can I adopt a child?
Yes, you can. Anybody can make an application. Anyone can make an application. But then again, after we do the groundwork, after we do the investigation, it will be determined whether or not
you're qualified to adopt a child.
Because not all adoption would be approved.
No. How does the process go through from the adoption, from that stage, the original parents? Do they play a part in that process also?
Yes, there is a very important piece of documents that is needed for the processing. It's called the consent form.
Yes.
And the consent form is geared towards the biological parents of the children. So they now would have to give Child Protection Authority the right to place their child up for adoption. However, we have circumstances where parents would not agree. Only obvious. And most of the times that is where children are already in care and there are lack of cooperation with the parents in terms of reuniting them. Right? They are not willing to meet the stipulations in order for the children to return home. What would happen then? We would have to build a case to prove that they are not involved, and so we can proceed without their consent. Right? It's a legal process. It's called dispensation of their rights. Right? So we can terminate their rights even if they do not consent. So most persons listening, viewers, most persons don't know that, and they would think that I did not sign for my child to be adopted, so you cannot.
You just can't say you take my child.
We can. Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, we can, right? And as I indicated, adoption is never the first option. We would always try to work with the parents first, right? But we can proceed without your consent.
All right.
But we would have to prove why.
All right. In instances where as you mentioned, the parents have not consented, you will go ahead and do it. But what if the child himself is being resistant? How is that dealt with?
Right. So the child also has a voice.
Yeah.
Right. When the child is 12 years and over, they would have to consent.
Okay.
If they are not willing, if they are unwilling, then we would not go forward with the adoption.
All right. So they remain in foster care or that stage.
Right. Or sometimes they are unwilling for that specific adopter, but it doesn't mean that they are unwilling across the board.
Okay.
Or sometimes the match is not right. There's a period in the adoption called the post-placement period, where the child and the adopter would be together, and we would have to monitor
a bit of a bonding,
to see whether or not bonding, attachment, and so forth would occur. Right. Okay. And we would monitor during that period. We would know whether or not we should proceed or whether or not we should find another match for the child.
Okay. All right, interesting to note. We drew for a break again. We'll take it till we coming back and continue our discussion this morning here on, of course, be part of To The Point. Be right back, folks. Stay with us. Don't touch it down.
Spend $50 or more at any Hubbard's department or participating outlets for a chance to win free fuel, free drinks, free prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free Hub TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free Dutch Lady milk, free passes to Sunshine promotion events for 2024, free groceries, all for one whole year, and every winner receives a free lunch package. But that's not all. Drive away in style in a brand new Isuzu D-Max. It sips, it doesn't guzzle. So fill out your entries and place them into the marked entry boxes. This promotion is brought to you in part by Dutch Lady, Danny, Promo, Supreme Bleach, Creative Chef, Glen, Floor, Salt Petroleum, Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited, Coca-Cola, Sunshine Promotion, Caribberies, Guap Bag, Sesame Spain, and Food Fear. Promotion runs from April 2nd to December 24. Terms and conditions apply.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Cricket, lovely cricket, as we bring you ball by ball commentaries of the T20 World Cup. The Cut and Drive Network, in association with this radio station, are pleased to be a part of the excitement. Join me, Andrew Mason, as I lead a team of top-class cricket commentators right through to the finals on June the 29th at the historic Kensington Oval. Cricket, lovely cricket, on this radio station. You got a date, so don't be late.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Welcome once again to those of you listening to The Point this morning here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Welcome to this edition of To The Point. Once again, we have the Child Protection Authority with us this morning. We have the Certificate Supervisor with us and the Case Management Supervisor with us also. Let's continue with our conversation this morning. Documentation that of course governs the Child Protection Authority. Folks may say, yeah, well, is these people just doing their own thing? You understand? Someone may say that. What documentation that governs the Child Protection Authority?
Well, we have our, as we say, our Bible is the Child Protection and Adoption Act, and we are often challenged by sometimes principals, sometimes the layman on the street. Sometimes we go to remove a child and they say, well, who gave you the authority to do so? Or they just do what all they want, or they just come and taking people's children, or they just interviewing children behind parents' back, and some learning facilities institutions may say to us, well, I need to know what is happening with that child. You can't interview that child and I'm not present or I'm not there. I need to know why you come to the school and what exactly the child told you and all those things. And then when they have to realize that, look, we have the authority. It is given to us through the laws of Grenada.
Yes.
And it's the specific law is the Child Protection and Adoption Act of 2010.
All right.
It speaks of not just the rule or what we are able to do and how we are able to do it, but it speaks about the adoption, all these processes as well. There's a board of directors who look at policies that run the authority, and we have different policies that are signed on to Ministry of Health, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Social Development, the RGPF, among others, that sign on to say, look, we have to work together with the authority to make sure that our children are safe. Spin-off from the Child Protection and Adoption Act, there is the Juvenile Justice Act and the Domestic Violence Act that we work along with, because oftentimes a child may not be physically abused themselves, but they may witness parents fighting and so forth within the household, and that will have an adverse effect on them. So we work along with the Domestic Violence Unit under the Ministry of Social Development in those aspects. When these things happen, once children are involved, to see what help we can give to not just the child but the family on a whole. Juveniles, which is under the Juvenile Justice Act, once they get caught up within the law, because once you reach the age of criminality and you have to be responsible for that criminality, that's at the age of 12, there's a different aspect or different modus operandi that is used for juveniles. We cannot treat them as adults when they commit a crime. So there are different avenues within the police and so forth that use the Juvenile Justice Act to deal with our juveniles, because we want to rehabilitate them before they reach to an age of where they're adults and the criminality continues.
All right.
So the child protection, because once a child is under 18, they're still a child.
Yes.
Once an individual is under 18, they're still a child.
All right.
So the 15-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, the 17-year-olds who would have committed such some form of criminality, we have to work along with them.
So it may not always be the option of someone being abusive and within a household, but that youngster who is, we say in local terms, giving trouble.
Yes, they're giving trouble. Some behavioralists.
The CPA also steps in on that also. I guess it's been reported probably he's giving trouble in school or giving trouble at home, and you could step in there also and make the necessary adjustments, what you need to do.
Quite right. So because a lot of times our children, you see they're having certain behaviors, but there's a cause to that behavior. Sometimes they are lashing out because they would have experienced something in some form of trauma and they don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes they are doing that for us to pay attention to them. Look, I'm crying out for help. Look, something is happening. Or they are in an environment or habitat that is teaching them the ills of society. And we have to address those things as well.
But work along different stakeholders, for example, probation. For those children.
A child protection officer. What kind of course, authority does a child protection officer have?
Well, the Act speaks to that. You will see that child protection officer is working on behalf or behest of the director. And the law gives the director to put anybody in her or his position to deal with a situation regarding a child. So the law speaks clearly that, look, a child protection officer is like the director herself or himself is coming to remove a child. That authority is given to that child protection officer. It's just like the police. If a constable arrests somebody or a sergeant arrests somebody, when they go to court, it doesn't say Sergeant Thomas against Mr. Philip. It says the Commissioner of Police versus whatever the individual's name is. So it's the same process or same modus operandi that is used when it comes to our children and our case management structure.
We drew for a final break in the program this morning. When we come back, we give you, of course, our listener viewing audience the opportunity to calling, and you may have a question or two you may want to ask the guest this morning. Feel free to do so when we come back. Stay with us, folks. Don't touch it down.
Coming up, it's a summer of style as top designers and their creations hit the catwalk with a Caribbean twist. The World Cup has rolled into town with on-field excitement and beyond-the-boundary thrills in Trinidad and Tobago. Getting married? Honeymooning? Barbados is your top option for an eventful experience. It's Caribbean Passport, right here on this station.
This guy was driving way over the speed limit. Look at the damage. This guy was going a lot over the speed limit. Look at the damage. This guy was going a little over the speed limit. Look at the damage.
I'm Audrey Jackson.
I'm Greg Jackson.
On February 19th at 4 a.m., a gun was used to take my son from me. You know him as Pop Smoke. We call him Shar. Because of gun violence, I'll never see my son run up the front of our steps, taking them two at a time. He won't ever take my hands again and dance with me. He won't come into my room and muscle pose in the mirror. Gun violence destroys families. It must stop.
You mentioned the wing high, then you have things like manuals, cross combat, you know. We have the low power there.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Once again, to the point, I did mention in this segment, we offer the opportunity for your viewers and listeners if you do have a question or two. And I beg of you to keep your contribution as short as possible. As the program entitles, keep it to the point so we can accommodate as much callers as possible. Let's entertain our first caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, Juti, and your guests on the longest day of the year. There can be nothing more terrible than when a child is abused by the very persons this child is looking forward to for protection and support. This is just so deplorable. But we know the circumstances in Grenada that can lead to children being vulnerable to those things. However, it's a very delicate balance, especially when we're talking about the parents and the children. And it's very sensitive, can be very sensitive. And the last thing one wants to do is to create a barrier, a separation between a child and his or her parent, an emotional barrier. And I'm saying that to ask the question, what is the threshold to determine whether it was just punishment gone wrong? Because parents have a right to punish the children. Not abuse them, but punish them. I have two daughters, and there's one I never, ever even pinched. But there's another one I know I flogged 3 times. So there must be some latitude for parents to discipline or even administer punishment to the children, even physical punishment. Now, what is the threshold that you have set that determine whether or not there should be intervention? Because once there is intervention, we know that there is a psychological consequence that will develop between the parent and the child. What do you look for? When do you decide that you should just have a report, forget it, or or go further with it? That's my question this morning.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Any response to the caller?
Yes. Thank you, caller, for your contribution. You're quite right. There's a difference between discipline and abuse. Now, what happens once a report is made to the authority, we don't have a choice but to investigate it. All reports that are made, we must investigate it. Now, upon our investigation, based on what we see, observe, what is said to us, we would take different approaches. Now, if a child has, for instance, let's look at physical abuse. If a child has cuts and bruises on their skin, the doctor will say in terms of the severity. We may look and see, okay, now there's a lot of swelling, there's cuts, there's bleeding, and so forth. That child would be taken to seek medical attention, whether it's at a clinic or one of our general hospital or one of our hospitals. And there's a medical paper attached to that will say the severity of it.
Yeah.
There are different check marks on that medical form that speaks to maiming, lacerations, and so forth. And the doctor will write themselves based on what they see. Now, based on that, we can have discussions with the family, or there may be a criminal aspect attached to it, where the police will get involved to deal with certain things. So, based on the severity of your disciplinary practices, it would be deemed as being abusive, or you are correcting your child by using strokes or something. And that's why we pray to our parents and guardians. There are different forms of discipline. You don't have to lash a child to discipline a child. There are alternatives that you can use. And we often talk not just beating, we or so forth. We say you can remove items from them, place them in timeout, and not allow them to go to certain places, not certain things you may give them as rewards. You can remove it as punishment as well. And we realize that is, especially for older children,
yes,
that is a very good tool that can be used. And
in today's world,
yes, because a lot of children like their Instagram, they like their phones and so forth, their gadgets. No, you might, and that's the thing. When you discipline your child, it doesn't start when they get old. It starts from the ground come up. Yes. And I think with Caller, if we adopt that approach, that can work out. We don't want to form a dysfunctional bond between parents and child, but the authority has a mandate that we have to perform, and we have to work with that.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, GT.
Good morning to you.
How are you? How is everybody?
Everything is all right. Let's hear your contribution, please.
Thank you. First of all, let me applaud the CPA for the work. But I'm deeply concerned moving forward. Now, if CPA is or have to be aggressive, it means that child abuse problem is high in the nation. That doesn't send a signal for the future. There's a lot of question mark there. So what I'm thinking, as I said, moving forward, the CPA must collect all necessary information and statistics on child abuse in the nation. Do analysis, do a spread, and let us see or try to determine what is the causative agent or the causative factor for child abuse, and deal with the source of the problem. So then we can bring a new dimension to peace, harmony, love, compassion for generations in the future. Have a great day, and it was nice listening to you, and I hope we can do something that will take us forward. Thanks a million.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyone want to respond to the caller's contribution this morning? If there's anything to add?
Well, I agree with the caller.
Suggestion.
It's a good suggestion, and we do collect statistics. Persons who are doing their master's, bachelor's, associate degree, the police, different entities do contact us for statistics on different aspects of what we do. But in terms of releasing a broad analysis to the public, I think we do release information, but it comes out in different forms. But we will take the suggestion on board and see how we can facilitate something more thorough, if that is feasible to the general public.
One thing I think that can assist in moving forward is the collaboration of everyone, because Child Protection Authority cannot do it for themselves. We need the support of the public. Each one look out for each one, and most of the times the cases that we have is vulnerable persons. Okay. So we need to look out for one another and work as a team in order to get rid of child abuse within our system.
All right, let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
To you.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. I'm calling to say that the Child Protection Authority people, like, they must not lie, come on the media and lie, because they actually break open, like, I want to know if it is a right to break open people's place, fight with them and go with the kids if they don't commit any order from the court or so, and still want to put the kids up for adoption because the mother and the father could stabilize and take care of the kids. And if that is a right, what they're doing, and they don't want us to walk with our phone to take out picture of the kids, and they still want to fight with us, beat me up, do me what they do me, and take my kids, and we don't know where the children are, and they need the parents. My children are traumatized, and the guy who sit down there talking, he mustn't lie. You see how he moving? Don't make them fool you. That's what they're doing. They lying. They don't saying what they're doing. They're just doing that so the media go think like them is a good organization, but they lying bad. Up to now, we don't know where the children is, and the children are young. You see that?
Caller, let me ask you, what is really the point you're trying to get across this morning? Let's hear what really is the point you're trying to get across.
What I want to get across is that our CPA take my children, and I want my children, and they lie on us that we knows nothing about, and they come in on GBN and lie. They mustn't lie.
Okay, caller, thank you so much. I'm still not gathering any information much from what the caller is saying, but
for the public, and I thank the caller for calling, and I think it would give us the opportunity to just clear up, a lot of issues that maybe the public is not aware of.
Okay.
Right? Whenever a removal is being done for whatever family, we always have grounds for the removal, right? Okay. And persons would know why the child is being removed. To add to that, if the matter goes to court, persons would be summoned, and they would know why they go to court. If at any point a child is in care and the parents of the children or child does not know where the child is because of the safety of that child, right? If we realize that the child would be at risk, the carer, the foster carer or the kinship carer would be at risk, we would not give out that information. So for the general public, if you are not aware, that are some of the things that we have to do in order to safeguard. It's
mandatory that you do that.
Right, safeguard the children. Again, if we realize, because we always facilitate contact visit with parents, right? If parents are uncooperative, then contact visit will not be held. Mm-hmm. But we, as I indicated earlier, we would always try to work with the parents in order to get the children back in care. If the children does not get return to the parents, it only means that there's a lack of cooperation. The child might be at risk if we were to place the child back into the care of the parents. So we always have to weigh it to see whether or not the child, because everything that we do is for the greater good of the child.
Yes.
We cannot allow you to have contact visit with camera because we know for a fact that maybe you might put the children up on social media, and that in itself is a risk to the child. So all these things we have to take into consideration. Yeah?
All right. So, caller via WhatsApp, good morning, you're welcome. Let's hear your contribution this morning. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning to you. Let's hear your contribution, please. Go right ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning. I guess you're hearing me. Please go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. I have a big concern with the protective authority, right? Yes, hello, good morning.
Caller, would you go ahead with your contribution, please? We are hearing you very well. Just go right ahead.
Okay, what I'm saying basically, I could give a thumbs up to the woman that called before. There was a young child. That child basically is 12 years old now. Right? That child was removed from the home. Nobody was placed in the court. Nobody was placed in the court. The police came because of a neighbor.
Caller, good morning. I'm not sure what's happening. Good morning, you're welcome.
Okay, that's my turn. Good morning.
Yes, go right ahead, please, sir.
Yes, have a good day and good morning to your guests. Now, briefly, your caller before made a very, very important observation, which is find out the cause of this problem that we're having. Now, your officers mentioned that one of the problems is the inability or the financial inability of the family, and that is so. But listening to your news, it comes out from Ghana and Jamaica that the reason why we're having these social problems, it is because of the state of the economy. And they said that the economy is not growing, and the urge to grow the economy. Now, Peter, back in here, we have seed, and seed is expanding. Are we going to expand seed beyond the ability of the government to deal with the seed matters? So it says one thing. These things is likely to stay because of the failure of the growth of the economy. So that is where the problem is. And the guy was right to identify that, find out where the problem is coming from. It's an economic problem that is causing us to break down socially. The officers are doing a good job, but it's a big, big, big job beyond the control. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Let's get some closing contributions from your guests this morning. We are at that stage when we should be wrapping the program.
All right, yes, sir.
Let's get some closing contributions.
Right, so let me start by saying this. I would like to thank the managing director, the board of directors, and our general staff, our hard-working case management adoption officers, alternative care officers, under the CPA umbrella for the tremendous work that they do. The hard work is really tiring, but they are committed, and we need the help of all stakeholders, all entities within our communities, all neighbors, all parents, school teachers, everybody, lawyers, doctors, everybody on board to safeguard our children. It's a collective effort, and it needs to be said that we are happy and thankful for those who assist us, and we want to broaden on the amount of persons that can lend some assistance to the authority. Secondly, I would like persons to understand we have processes in the authority that we must follow. Once a child or children are removed from any place of safety or of safety according to the parents or so forth, we have to tell them. You mightn't tell them the exact minute, but within a 24, 48 hours period, we have to tell you why your children are removed. Because sometimes we take children straight from the school based on what is happening within the household. So we have to inform the guardians, the parents, why the children are removed. I think some persons have been disingenuous because they want their children back just to come out in the public and say certain things. I think the authority will have to look at and take a different approach in refuting and rebutting some of these things that are being said within the public space, because it causes persons not to trust the Child Protection Authority or have faith in what we do. And we are working for the best interests of these children in our tri-island state, and I think persons who make disingenuous statements or so forth, not having all the facts, should not come into the public space and say certain things. But I think we will have to look at things a bit differently in terms of dealing with those kind of issues. But lastly, I have to say, the mandatory reporting, please.
Yes.
Once somebody suspects or sees any forms of abuse, please report it to us. You don't have to say your name, where you're from. You can do it anonymously. This is the information we need, where we can find the child, whether we can find the child at home, at school, or any parts of the community that would give us that information. We would greatly appreciate it.
Okay,
thank you.
Sean?
Right. So from the Alternative Care Department, we thank the public so much, those of you who are assisting us in assisting our nation's children. We have over 200 children in state care. We are trying our very best to ensure that they are well cared for. However, we have our limitations, and that comes in the form of lack of foster carers. So we are making a cry, we are making a plea out to our nation's public to assist us. If you have any interest in fostering, I would encourage you to call 435-0293, or you can email at adoption officer 1, that's the number 1, at cpagrenada.org. So that's 435-0293 or adoption officer 1, the number 1, at cpagrenada.org. Our children are depending on us, so let us work together to ensure that they are safe. Thank you.
So, Ms. Joseph John, I want to thank you once again. Mr. Harford, thank you once again for being on the program this morning. Interesting conversation this morning. You know, this program could take like 2 hours.
Yes.
You know, there's lots to be said. I think we may have just brushed the surface and all of the information we should have just discovered this morning. But thanks again. Hope to see you returning, and probably we could have another lengthy conversation on issues that surrounding, of course, the CPA.
Of course, of course.
Once again, thank you. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Join us again. Our next edition will be on Monday of next week. Have a great weekend, everyone, and best wishes. That's why I say goodbye.